really excited that you've taken your time to join us and allow us to tell more about the Warp Studio. I'm your host for today. I'm Adrian Rijkens. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Warp Studio. So today we will discuss how to create, distribute, and how to analyze a training scenario. So that will be the topic of today, and will maybe be a little bit of a high-level overview of these things. So we would also like to ask you to ask questions. You can use either Twitter using @warpvr for that. We'll be monitoring the streams, or you can use email. Send an email to hello@warp.industries. Or you can use, if you're logged into Gmail, you can directly type into this webinar your questions. All these questions will be monitored. They're relevant during the webinar. I will get these questions handed to me. Otherwise, I will actually discuss them at the end of the webinar. That will be in 35 to 40 minutes from now. So let's just start. So I will actually now start and switch screens. So I will actually show you what the Warp Studio looks like, so you can exactly see what I'm doing on screen. On a later point in time, I will get back to you so you see me again. But as long as you hear me loud and clear and see the screen, you see exactly what you can do with the Warp Studio. So let me switch screens. So there we go. So first of all, I would like to discuss how to create a training scenario. The first thing you will need to do is you'll need to sign in to the Warp Studio. If you go into the top right corner of our website, warp.studio, you can sign in, and I'll just use sign in for this webinar. Do so. So this is the first screen where I arrive in Warp Studio. Might be known to you or not, but this is where all my training scenarios are. So as you can see, there's already one scenario in here, but I would like to create a new scenario. So to do that, I will go to the top right corner and select Add Scenario. Then the big question is, of course, what kind of scenario would I like to make? Let's say I want to train sales employees on how to do proper customer service. So let's call it a customer service scenario. And we want to create a description, because what I'm now entering is the exact thing this trainee will see once he's going to do the training. So I'll write this description of this scenario, and then of course we have to think about what do we want to achieve. So let's say an angry customer walks into a store. So that's the current scenario. So I'll call this description an angry, or I would just call it a customer to make it more of a surprise for the trainee that the customer is angry. A customer walks into the store. You will have to talk to that customer. And we can add a scenario image, which I already have here. And once I've done that, I can save. I jump directly into the scenario. As you can see here in the top left corner, you see the customer service title, which we just added. But if I would go a layer up, it's here in scenarios, you will see that now there's a new scenario called customer service next to the already published scenario. So I can click it to go back again to that scenario. Or as you see, when I hover over these scenarios, I have a little pencil here, and I can actually change the title or description. I can do that at any point in time, also after publishing scenarios, which is actually great, because that means that I can always change things if I'm not happy about them at a later point in time. So let me go into the customer service training. And as you see, there's nothing to see in here yet. So the first thing I will need to do is I will need to double click anywhere in what we call the canvas. This is the place where you can add scenes. So I can double click anywhere here to add my first scene. So I'll do that now. So now I can add different scene types. For now, I'll not jump into all scene types, but let me just explain what I want to do. Because in this scenario, I want a customer to walk into the store, and I want to walk towards that customer to ask this customer a question. So my first scene will be actually a direction scene. I'm thinking of that I'm standing in the store and I see a customer, but I need to approach that customer. So let me select the direction scene for that. I can give the scene a title, and I'll call that customer walks into the store. And I can give this scene a description. So this is actually only for us as creators, this information. So the customer walks into store is for us, but the scene description is for us, but also for filmers. So here you will actually discuss what will happen in this scene. So in this scene, the actor, is the customer, but let's say it's an actor, walks into the store that waits, or not into the store, let's say in front of the store, walks into the store that waits in front of it. So will not walk directly towards me, and the actor will look a bit annoyed. Now I can already add some information to this scene. So this part will be actually what the trainee will see. I will show you in a later point in time how these interactive elements look like, but let me already add some information. So information is a customer walks into the store, walk towards the customer. This is something I would like to do. And then I can say the label, this will be a direction label, which you will see also in a later point in time. So this label will be walk towards customer. I might not want to show this label, so I would select don't show this label. I just want to see an arrow towards the customer. So now I will select save. And now my first scene has been created. So as you see, I can hover over the scene to get some options, and I can also actually click the scene and it will turn around. And here you see again the information element and the answer element. So great, that was my first scene. Let's make another scene. So I walk towards the customer, and the customer is now waiting for me to ask him a question, him or her. So I will double click anywhere on the canvas again to create a new scene. In this case, I'll create a multiple choice scene. So in the scene, I say waiting customer, or let's make it more, of course we have to think like what's logical to call it. So let's say talk to customer, that might be a better description. Then we say like actor is waiting to be talked at. She looks still very annoyed. And as information, we'll add a question here. So we say like, what do you say to the customer? I'll add two answers. That can be like, this will actually be a question again. So we might ask like, hey, you look in a rush. Can I help? We do another answer. Hey, you need to get a ticket in order to be helped. Exclamation mark. So these are my two answers now that I created. I can create as many answers as I want or delete them as easily as that. Now I save this, and you'll see that there are now two scenes in the canvas. I can actually also grab a scene by just holding the mouse button and dragging the scene anywhere I want to. Now I will create my last scene, and that's the scene I already talked to the customer, and the customer will actually respond to my question. So I'll make the scene a transition where it will just go through the video where the customer gives an answer. So customer gives answer. Here in the scene description, again, you can use this for the film crew. I will show you later on how the script can be exported for the film crew. You can actually add a script here, script for actor who is talking very annoyed. Now we can add their script, which is now blah, 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 but it can be, of course, the exact script of what they have to say. And we save this. Now we've got 3 scenes. I will also add an ending by double clicking again and adding an ending. And let me just add another one and show you why. So now I want to connect these different scenes to each other. So I do this by using the answers, which are the A and ABs, as you can see here. But to get a little bit more context, I can flip the scenes, or even easier, in the top right corner, I can flip all the scenes. Maybe I don't want to flip this one. So I get a little bit more information on what's in these scenes. So the customer walks into the store. I want to connect that to what to say to the customer. Hey, you look in a rush. Can I help? I will connect that. So what I do is actually I grab the button, I keep my mouse pressed and go to the next scene and then release. That's what I do now. So let me connect that there. And actually when I connect it, you also see you can give points. So these are actually subtracting points. Maybe like, hey, you need to get a ticket in order to be helped is not a very customer friendly thing to say. So I'll put this one to an ending. The scenario ends when you say that. It's a very bad thing to say. And I'll give 2 subtraction points to the trainee for giving that answer. And I can also connect this last transition scene to another ending. Once I connect to an ending, that means that for the trainee, once he's given the answer, in this case, or once it's gone through the auto transition, the scenario will end and the trainee will see the amount of stars he has received. Let me give you an example, because we can already, even though we haven't got yet the content video, we can already test this scenario. In the top right corner, you've got the test functionality. So once I clicked it, you see again, you see the text we just added, customer walks in the store. You see the thumbnail we added, and you can say start scenario. This is something which will be also done in our app by the trainee. When I start scenario, of course, you will only see the text content which we added. You can say like the customer walks into the store, walk towards customer. I can select walk toward customer. And now I can make a selection. So let's say, for example, I say the wrong answer. Hey, you need to get a ticket in order to be helped. And here you see, oh, I get 3 stars. And I actually get a text that says, good job, although some choices you made could have been better, please try again. Well, maybe I don't want that to be the ending text, so I want to change that. That's the reason why I'm testing this, to see if I like the scenario. So now I can actually go to endings, as you see here, endings. And I can say for 3 stars, I select this part. I can change the ending text and would say like, you have done a terrible job. I don't think that's a very motivating thing for a trainee, but let's just say this is an example for this scenario to show what happens. So then I go to the test again, and I make exactly the same choices again. And there you see 3 stars, you've done a terrible job. Well, I hope not, but now you know how that works. So this is the first part on how to create a scenario. But of course, once we created the full scenario, we want to film. And of course, this is a very, very small scenario. Let me just show you how a live scenario looks like. So here's already a published scenario, which is a bit the same topic. Um, and here you can actually see how a real-life scenario looks like. For this webinar, it would be too much time to create this, but once you get the hang of it, you can actually quite quickly create such a scenario. So I'll go back to our own scenario, and let's say this is our final scenario, the things we want to start filming. What do we do then? Well, before we start filming, we also want to add some filming locations to it, because that will help the film crew. So let's add the camera locations. There are no locations yet. So as you see, when I hover over a scene, I can use the three dots to see even more options. And when I select camera location, I can add a new camera location. So let's say the camera location in this case is in the center of the store. Then I walk towards the customer, so I want to talk to the customer, and this will be a different location. So you see, actually, I can select again the center of the store, or I can add a new camera location. In this case, it's in front of store next to customer. And also in the last case, this will be the same location, so in front of store next to customer. So now I added camera locations. I can actually use that for the export to show that to the film crew. But let me just check if everything's right. So I go to filming. Here I now see the locations. So center of store, in front of store, next to customer. And I actually can also check, does this need to be filmed? Because there can be scenes where you can actually use the same film you made for a couple of questions. So maybe I could say, like, customer gives answer is the same as talk to customer. So I can check this box and say this is the same as talk to customer. In this case, that's not the case, so I want to film everything. And what could also be a nice thing to do is maybe see if the order of things is in the right way. So now we've got this as an order, but maybe first want to film customer gives answer, so you can switch the order of things. This is important because we've got a functionality where you can export the scenario. So let me show you this. When I go to export scenario, I've got a couple of options. But the most important one, I think, is the camera location option, where we sort scene by camera location, which is a very useful tool for the filmmakers. Let me show how it looks like. So I'm now exporting the scenario, and as you can see, I get a nice PDF, which I can print for the film crew, and it has a table of contents. You see 3 total scenes, 3 scenes need filming, 2 camera locations. And when I scroll down, you see the location and even a checkbox, which with a pen they can check, so they can make sure that they film everything that is needed. So we're not going to go into how to film because we haven't got enough time for this webinar to do that. But for this webinar, I luckily already have the films. Surprise, surprise. Here I already have 3 videos. Here's the one where the customer enters the store. Here's the one where you're next to the customer. The customer doesn't say anything yet, but is just looking annoyed and waiting for you to ask a question. And lastly, we ask a question and the customer gives an answer, being very annoyed. So let's upload these to the Warp Studio. So let me go back again to our scenario. And let's actually go to a new tab, which is called Media, which is in the top here. Now go to Media. And if I would want to upload these, I can select Add Media and browse for those files, which are already here. Just to save some time, I already uploaded these videos. Once you upload them, they will be transcoded by the server, and that might take a while. So I just want to save the time to do that. Luckily, it goes quite fast, so you can quite quickly already publish a scenario. So I uploaded the media. Now the next step is to connect the media to the scenes. So let me just show you how that works. I can actually dive into a scene by hovering over a scene again and using the eye. When I use the eye, I go directly into the scene. You can also go to the scenes list using this part, the scenes, but I prefer to use the eye icon because then I'm always directly at the scene where I want to be. So here I see all the information regarding the scene. So I see already the information we added, the answer we added. I see the filming, the camera location we added. But what I see we didn't add yet is, of course, the 360 media. So let's do that. So I'll select now the store entry video. And once I selected that, you start to see the interactive elements, which I was talking about earlier. So I can select such an element, like the information element, and actually here you see what's inside of the element, because it might be a bit small here in the screen. So you see here, this is the information element saying a customer walks into the store, walk towards the customer. But I might not want to have these interactive elements showing directly, because if I now play, I already see them, but the customer is not yet in the store. So I would like to have this when the customer is exactly at the spot in the store. That's here. So let me drag, as you see, I can drag these bars. Let me drag that to the location where the customer has entered the store. And now I can, for example, drag the arrow exactly where the customer is, because that's the point I want to walk towards. If it comes to the information element, I also want to show that when the customer is in the store, these elements will appear at the same time. But of course, this is VR, and your trainee might be looking anywhere, even behind him. So for this information element, I might want to check show information in look direction, which you can find in the top right here. So once the elements appear, this information part will show in front of the face of the trainee, so he knows there's something expected of him or her. Furthermore, if we play the video and if the trainee does not give an answer, we want the video to loop. But we don't want it to loop all the time having the customer entering the store. So I will drag the video loop towards a point where I think is a good place to loop it, where it isn't really that noticeable that the video is looping. So now I've done this, I'm happy about where the interactive elements are. I'll go to my next scene. I can either go back to the flow to do that and select the eye, or I can go through the list in the left here to my next scene. So let me do that. I'll add my next 360 media. This is what do you say to the customer. The customer is waiting, and you have to ask a question or say something to the customer. In this case, I want it to appear quite quickly. I'll say something like, just to wait like 1.2 seconds, and the video in this video can loop from the beginning. And in this case, I would like to have the element like in the top left of the head of the customer. So it's a nice place to see for the trainee. So here I see after 1.2 seconds it appears. And for the transition scene, I will also add the media. And here's the angry answer. And here there are no interactive elements. The only thing that happens in the transition scene is that the whole scene is played, and after that it goes to the next scene, or in this case, it goes to the ending. So as you actually see in this list, you see a little camera icon. That wasn't there yet when we started adding media to the scenes. This is actually to show if you added media or not. This makes it a little bit easier for you to know if every scene has been filled. The same icon can be found actually here in the flow. So now I've done that. I already tested the scenario. I filmed it with the film crew. I added the media, and now I want to start publishing. That's an exciting moment. So let's go to publish, the top right corner. Here we get again a confirmation on how the thumbnail will look like, how the training title will be and how the description on training will be. So this is everything the trainee will see. Now you can say next step if we're happy about that. If we're not happy about that, we can still, of course, edit it. As mentioned, you can always edit it. Also, after publishing, you can always edit something and republish a scenario. Let's go to the next step. You'll get a couple of checks. So like, are there any missing links? Are there any missing videos? Maybe I forgot to add a video. And a lot of different checks to make sure your scene is completed and there will be no problems once a trainee plays it. And let's go to the next step. Here you can give scenario access. I usually like to publish a scenario only for myself, to check it, to test it if I'm happy about it. And after that, I could either republish and say publish to all trainees, or I will show you how to one by one assign a scenario to a trainee. But for now, I'll publish using only me. As you see, yay, publishing starts now. My scenario gets published. That's a good moment. In your scenario overview, you will now see that is the state of publishing. So the scenario is being published. You don't have to wait for the scenario to be published. You will get notified by email. Or if you really want to be sure, like if you're maybe a little bit impatient and you really want it to be published because you're excited as me to see if the scenario is great, you can just refresh your page and actually you see the scenario is now already being published. So that means we can now start testing it or distributing it. So that gets us to the next part, trainees. At the trainee part, you can start signing trainings or the scenario to the trainee. Let me show you how you can do this. You can either add a user, in this case it's a trainee, and I'll say Adrian trainee is my last name for this example. I'll add an email address. And I can actually already directly add a scenario to this trainee. I can also just create this trainee and at a later point in time add a scenario to this trainee. In that case, a trainee will only receive an email once a scenario has been added to him. So I will, in this case, already assign customer service, which we just created for ourselves, to myself, and or to this new trainee. And we can actually also select, is this user a trainee or a manager? So a manager will be able to log into the Warp Studio, but in this case it's a trainee because we only want this trainee to play videos or play scenarios on this VR headset. So now I select add, and now this trainee will receive the scenario or will receive an email with which he can will get instructed on how to download the app. And when downloading the app, you will be able, once he logged in, you will be able to see any scenario that's been assigned to this trainee. Once the trainee starts playing a training, it's of course a big question what he's done. And we want to know that. So we want to use analytics for that. To demonstrate how you can see what has been happening to your scenario, what kind of activity has been there, you can select a trainee and get further insights. In this case, I already played the full scenario, which I've just shown earlier on, the big scenario. You can see here all the scenes I went through, all the answers I gave, and you can see the amount of time I took, even the amount of time I took per answer. You can see where I made mistakes, so where I got subtracted points, and the amount of stars. And in this case, I just did one scenario. I just played one scenario, so this was already a high score for me. Just receiving 3 stars, not that good at customer service, sorry for that, but it's something you can see. And this will, once I've done, for example, 10 attempts, you'll see 10 attempts you can scroll through on the left side of here. But that might not be enough insights, because let's say you've got 100 trainees, you want to do more detailed analysis of your scenario, of what people have been doing. We created a great functionality called export, where you can just export all this data and import it to any business intelligence tool for example, something as Excel, numbers, or ClickView, where you can create any slice and dice view you want of your trainees and how they've been doing the scenarios. So this has been actually an explanation on how to create a training. It's been an explanation on how to distribute the training and also how to analyze the training. There's a lot to tell about what you can do here in the Warp Studio. So I can show you a lot more. But what I just wanted to say also is in the top right corner, we also have a great place where you can actually learn more about the steps you can take in the Warp Studio. If you select that, this is a start guide where you can go through all the things you need to do to make sure that that first scenario that you create is a good scenario. So for me, this was a first introduction, high-level introduction towards you on how to create a scenario. And I am now happy to receive your questions on what you would like to have more insights on. Maybe I can show more things in the Work Studio. Maybe you've got different questions, more general questions. Feel free to ask. Look. To which mobile platforms do you publish to? That's a very good question. That's from Bart. Thanks, Bart, for that question. So we publish to different platforms. One is iOS. So we've got a iOS app. So that's Apple. And you can just grab the app. Actually, you see now the app refreshing. It's just adding the scenario we just created. And here in this app, you can play the scenarios using either a Google Cardboard or using the full screen view without a cardboard. We also support Oculus Go, and we support the Gear VR, which is the variant where you can also add a smartphone to it, but it's a bit more immersive as the cardboard. So in the end, that's the Apple Store, it's the Android Play Store, and it's the Oculus Store where we publish these apps. So a trainee just needs to download the app, and once the trainee downloads the app, he or she can log in using her credentials, and by that way receive the scenarios. So thanks, Bart, for that question. Maybe I skipped a little bit through that one. So next question. Do you need a VR headset, or can I also watch on the mobile phone without goggles? From Sander. So good question, Sander. So we actually quite recently introduced a 2D way to view a scenario in the phone. So you can actually, when a trainee downloads the app, the first time when it's been downloaded on either a smartphone like Apple or Android phone like a Samsung, and it's the Cardboard app, that trainee can log in, can download a scenario, and the first thing the trainee will see is, do you want to play this scenario using VR goggles, which would be the cardboard or the plastic variant where you can add it to, or do you want to do it in non-VR mode, so without VR? If it's not in VR mode, let me just maybe see if I can show you. If it's not in VR mode, it will be just a flat screen, and the trainee can just swipe and look in that way. And if it's in VR mode, you'll see the VR mode, so that's the two screens, and you have to put it into a VR device, so press VR device to watch. So this is the way you can watch it with or without goggles. So this is the without goggles. So thanks, Sander, for the question. It's really great to get these questions. Can I use a GoPro Fusion with your software? So definitely. So thanks, Boukje, for this question. Um, so you can use any because this is about cameras, of course, and I think we'll have also at some point a webinar more around filming. You know, what kind of cameras can you use? What are the best techniques to film? But if it comes to cameras, you can use any 360 camera to film. So as long as we've got the 360 degrees of image, then we can use it with our software. So that way you can use it. The only thing we ask from the Warp Studio side is, in the end, in any software, video editing software program, you need to decide on what export functionality you use. And mainly, we support now .mp4, which is the standard on video. So we recommend you to export all your 360 videos to .mp4. And you can also find more details on what settings to use on our Q&A on the Work Studio. So that's on the GoPro Fusion software. Thanks for that question, Boukje. Look, so this is more a non-technical question. This is, what can VR do for coaching? From Vasilis. So what can VR do on coaching? It's always a thing we have to see, like, where's the added value? So I think if it comes to coaching, it can be a lot of different coaching. But let's say we want to coach somebody to be better at giving feedback to employees. Maybe you've got employees, you're a manager, you want to give feedback to employees. This is a situation where you've got an employee who's standing in front of you or behind his desk, and you want to tell that employee something. So I think VR can do a lot in that sense, because in VR you really got the feeling you're in that room with that employee, and you'll also be able to tell an employee, for example, what he's not doing right, and you'll get maybe a strong reaction of that employee, and in VR you will feel that reaction. So what you can do is a little bit like the sales example which we just had with the customer service. You've got somebody in front of you, and you can decide with the multiple choice scene a couple of questions or a couple of things you can ask the employee or tell the employee. And there might be a way to properly address a problem, so a coaching problem. You want to help somebody, but sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of things you can say, but sometimes there's a best practice on how to approach something. There's a procedure to do that. So I think you can use VR very good if it comes to these procedures on how to talk and interact with people, because real emotions are used. And I really recommend using actors if you're filming. As I was already mentioning, during creating the scenario, you can add the scripts for the actors, and actors are very good at remembering these scripts, and it will feel more natural to the employee or to the manager playing the training, to see an actor playing the employee, and will feel much better than somebody who's never acted before. But of course that depends on what kind of scenario you're making, if you want to use actors or not. Or maybe you've got some employees who are great actors. So but that's just an advice from me. But if it comes to VR, coaching is definitely something you can look into. And I actually know that it's something which is already being done with the Warp Studio. So definitely something you can do with it. Thanks for that question, Vasilis. So next question is, what type of VR training can you make? Only sales/retail scenarios? Which industries? So that's from Mac. Thanks so much, Mac, for that question. So, of course, sales and retail, this was just an example. I just want to show what's possible with the Warp Studio. I think it's up to you to decide what can we do with this Warp Studio. But we've been seeing a lot of usages already. We've seen it, for example, for maintenance. So how do I service an aircraft? So learning maintenance people, what are the right steps to service an aircraft? Because in the end, when you learn from a book is flat and it's not the real situation. You actually want to stand next to the aircraft, walk around it, really feel the aircraft. So when a trainee really gets to that situation where he's at the aircraft, he already recognizes the environment, already knows what to do because he's already been there. So that's one of the industries. But there are many, many more. Think, for example, also on safety. I was showing a direction scene where you can walk towards the customer. We've already seen a lot of customers using our Warp Studio to create safety trainings. So what do you do in case you are in a factory and this factory has got dangerous chemicals in there and you as an employee see a fire starting? What should you do? You know, should you run out of this building? Well, you would say yes, but isn't there a procedure to inform your colleagues? Should you first run out of the building and then inform your colleagues, or inform your colleagues directly? And how should you do that? How should you inform your colleagues? This procedure can be done with the Work Studio. You can really train people to do that. And you can also, for example, then add CGI effects of smoke on top of the video that you had. And you can actually also create like the fire alarm. You can add that also. So that's also interesting because this safety training, like an emergency, you can train that all year around. You don't have to wait for that 1 year training. You can, even if there's a new employee, you don't need to, like if you're a company with 1,000 people, you don't want to do this procedure every time a new employee arrives. So this employee can already train himself what's the proper procedure with such an emergency. And then there are tons of different industries you can think of. Also, I don't want to get too much into, I can talk very long about this, but think also about the medical world. We've been training on CPR procedures. Somebody falls on the ground. What's the right procedure? So what should you do? And there you've also got people around you, people becoming really excited, very afraid, and you've got all these emotions around you. And it's a really good way to train for such an awful situation. Might it arise, you know how to perform proper CPR. So there are many different things you can do using the Work Studio. And also we're happy to help you on how to do that. So either you can use, for example, intercom, which is in the bottom right corner, where you can ask questions on us if we have ideas on how to do something. You can look on our Q&A, and you can, of course, always reach out to us if you want to know more about how to do that. Also, if you've got a question about a specific industry, also feel free to contact us, because we really want to think with you on how to make your scenario a success, so you can really have an impact with your VR scenario. So thanks, Mac, for that question. Sorry if I was a bit long on this answer, but I really get enthusiastic if it comes to all the possibilities of the Work Studio. So next question. What if I don't have a 360-degree camera? Can I hire you to film for me? From Dana. Well, thanks, Dana. Sure. Warp has got a services site. You can hire us, no props, you know. At the same time, we are really excited about customers really getting the hang of filming themselves. So you can, at some point, when you get the hang of, you know, how to create a scenario, think of also buying a 360 camera. And we're really happy to provide also workshops on how you can create this content yourselves. But sure, if you haven't got a 360 camera, we'll shoot it for you. Happy to do that. So yeah, thanks for this question, Dana. I hope that's enough answer for you. So do you also offer more in-depth workshops for my full company? From Marike. So thanks, Marike, for this question. Definitely. So as I just mentioned, we offer video workshops. So that's really on the video part. But the video part is just a small part, as you just seen, because it all starts with creating the scenario. starts with really thinking about what do I want the trainee to learn during this scenario. So that's really, you have to get into the process of how do I create such a scenario with a learning objective. So we do workshops on that, so you really get the hang of that. Also, get the hang of the storytelling in such a scenario, because you want to have a very natural flow, so that the engagement of the trainee is very high when this trainee is doing the training. So definitely, we provide workshops. If you're interested in these workshops, just reach out to us on hello@warp.industries, and we'll provide you all the information on these workshops. Of course, you can ask any questions. And I guess we haven't got any other questions left. Okay. So I see we don't have any questions left. So that also makes it a little bit the end of the webinar. So let me just close off. First of all, I would really like to thank the whole Warp team on preparing for this first webinar for the Warp Studio. And most of all, I would like to thank you for your time, for making so much time to get more knowledge on the Warp Studio, for asking all these questions. And I really hope you got a little bit more of an idea on how to use the Warp Studio. And I hope you're as excited as us to really create impactful scenarios. We will do these webinars on a regular basis. Actually, the next webinar I want to do about more in-depth on the flow. So, of course, I created a scene, but I didn't go through all the scene types. So you've got different scene types like a hotspot, information scene. So I would like to go more in-depth on what you can do with the different scene types. At the same time, we also will follow up on you on what you thought of this webinar. In this follow-up, you will also get the question like, what kind of next webinar do you expect? So in a month's time, we will decide what in a month's time we will do, also depending on your answers. What's your need? What do you want to know? So that will really help us to determine what the next webinar will be. If you haven't signed up and we haven't got your email address, but you would like to receive the evaluation of this webinar, please also just send an email to hello@warp.industries. And finally, also in this form, you'll also find a question about if you want to receive the full scenario of a customer service training. And if you want that, you can jot that down there with your email address, which you use for the Warp Studio. We'll make sure you get that scenario in your Warp Studio account. So you've got a great example on how to create a sales training, and using your imagination, you can create any scenario you want for any industry you want. So thanks again for attending this first Warp Studio webinar, and we hope to see you on our next webinars. This is Adrian Rijkens, CTO of Warp.